I built huge businesses in Minnesota. My Pillow I built from scratch. A billion-dollar company with thousands and thousands of employees in Minnesota over the years, and then now we've been the most attacked company in history of the planet for the last year. Or the last 2 years by Operation Arctic Frost, when it was attacked by our own administration under Biden, and My Pillow, we got through that. I was able to navigate them through the hardest time for any company in history, being attacked daily by the media and the government. And now they're there. My employee-owned company, they're there. They're secure. I can move on to governor, and they'll be just fine. They've been there. They're here to stay. And this is what it's all about. I've lived the American dream on steroids. This is what we're fighting for, the American dream. And everybody will see that. I don't care if you're a Democrat in the city that's going to also now vote for me, or if you're somebody that didn't bother and get out and vote, you're going to be getting out and voting.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Happy New Year. It's January 5th. And the news is breaking already. Here in Minnesota, Tim Walz has said he will not run for a third term. And we've got a multitude of candidates who are running for the Republican nomination for governor in Minnesota. What will happen on the Democrat side? There are rumors that Amy Klobuchar is going to step into the void. We'll see about that. She would be a far more formidable candidate than Tim Walz was going to be. Many people saw Tim Walz as an easy defeat, no matter who the Republicans put up. So we've got this growing number of Republicans, including My Pillow founder Mike Lindell. He is our interview today. He doesn't seem to care who's running, whether it's Amy Klobuchar or Tim Walz. The fact is, Tim Walz is no longer running, if we believe his statement today. And so if it is Amy Klobuchar, how will Mike Lindell handle it? This interview is unique because all of the other gubernatorial candidates we have interviewed to this point on the Republican side assumed they were running against Tim Walz. The tide has changed. What does Mike Lindell have to say about it? He is our guest next. Mike Lindell, welcome. I know you're traveling, and so your signal may be a little jumpy, but we're going to try to get this done. You have thrown your hat in the race in Minnesota for governor, and here we are on Monday, January 5th, and Tim Walz is now dropping out on the Democrat side.
Right.
What's your reaction?
Well, I think it's great. I think he's one of the worst governors this country's ever had. So I'm glad that he's dropping out of the race for another term. But it would have been great to go against calling him out on all the stuff that he has done bad for our state, and this big cover-up of all this fraud. Maybe, I guess he couldn't play defense and offense at the same time. I want to find out if he's either the most incompetent governor ever, that he never just watched all this fraud that was going on. How can he say he didn't know about it, or was he in on it and stuff? So I think I'm hoping they get to the bottom of it all. That Keith Ellison, Elon Omar, all of this. I mean, it's just disgusting. I've lived here all my life, and I have a lot of problems, a lot of solutions to all the problems we have here in Minnesota. But what I do like about this is it's a big wake-up call for all of us in Minnesota. Like, hey, we're Minnesota nice no more. We're not going to listen to the Star and Tribune and all of our local media that covers this stuff up and seems to protect the truth. I mean, protect the lies, and the truth doesn't ever get out to the people, and it ends up getting brainwashed. Oh, all is well, all is well. I'm not surprised this morning that he dropped out. I think he should step down as governor and say, with all this fraud, and completely step out of the politics forever, and hopefully, he can, and then try and defend himself on what really went on here in Minnesota.
Well, we've got some political voices this morning saying be careful what you wish for, because if Amy Klobuchar steps in and fills the void as the Democrat nominee for governor, she could be formidable. How do you see it?
I welcome Amy Klobuchar because there's a lot of dirt on her too, and and also Amy was the original election denier. She was the original one long before I said we need to get rid of electronic voting machines. Amy Klobuchar was #1 in the nation in the movie Kill Chain. So that's one thing Amy and I do have in common is we both want to secure our elections, but all of a sudden she's went silent on that issue. I think that would be pulled to the
Well, what
forefront.
is
Like, Amy, how did you change positions? And now, is her name big where we'd be worried about winning? I think there's been enough problems in Minnesota. Remember that she was also the senator under all this too. Where were her eyes on Minnesota? You know, she's our senator. Come on, Amy, did you not know about all this fraud going on? You're as bad as Walz, as far as I'm concerned. I got a lot on Amy Klobuchar. I think it'd be a great race, and I think expose someone else. Expose Amy for what she is.
Well, what else do you have on her?
Well, like I say, all of this machine stuff that she went silent on. Amy investigated. She led the charge on our horrible elections in Minnesota. All the fraud in Minnesota in our elections that goes back 10 years, goes back up before 2016. Amy called that out, and then she went completely silent. She went silent 2 years ago, or she went silent right after the 2020 election. I would put stuff about her up all the time, and I, try and reach out to her. She had a booth right outside of my pillow booth at the Minnesota State Fair. And boy, she's sounding the alarm back then. And all of a sudden, after the 2020 election, she goes silent. I would love to bring all that up and go, Amy, what's up with that? You started investigating all this and then you stopped. Why? Because that, where there's fraud, Michele, where there's fraud in, with all this welfare fraud, which Amy knew about too. What about the election fraud that she definitely led the charge on? So, let's just call her out on each thing here. Well, Amy, where were you on all this when last February or last January when KSTP came out with a big report about this Somalian fraud and about these welfare programs? Where's your voice, Amy? So I would enjoy to call all that out and see what she has to say.
Relative to the other candidates, you jumped in rather late, and we've heard there's another person jumping in, but this field is just enormous. And I've asked every candidate, you must be jumping in because you feel that the field so far isn't strong enough, and you can win where the others can't. Where do you see your advantages?
I feel I have advantage over all of them. I've been from one, I have dealt with the homeless, the people in addiction in Minneapolis. I've worked with Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, Union Gospel back then. So I have that part I have a problem solution for. I just met with the farmers on sustainable aviation fuel. The whole thing we've done there to help the farmers. I have the solutions to all these problems that have faced us. Education, our teachers. I've met with them. All this stuff I've been doing over the last 4.5, 5 years, you're going to see me all come out with these solutions now. I don't believe there's any other candidate that even comes close to not only that, with the connections I have to our federal government too. I know them all. I know every single one of them. They're on my speed dial, including the president. So working to clean up, to help Minnesota, even with the federal level, but also in Minnesota, all of the different things like that. I'll give you an example. So you have Minneapolis is empty. You go before Christmas, all of our retail stores and stuff that need help. They need help. They need to get the people in there. Everybody can't be buying online at Amazon and stuff. I have the perfect solution for that too. So you're going to see all this come out.
Let's use that one as an example.
What's that?
What is your solution for that?
Here's an example with the retail stores. They're paying all these taxes. I used to have a resale. Remember, we have the first mall in the United States, Southdale Mall, back in the day when I was a kid. I went there 3-4 weeks ago. This should be packed before Christmas. And everybody, you're buying stuff online. These guys are paying sales tax. They're paying, retail, our property taxes going up. It's an unfair advantage for the internet. I want to take and get rid of the sales tax at the box store level and then you just keep your tax, your sales tax. If you pay online and internet, which would also affect my company, My Pillow, that's where you should be paying your bigger retail, or I mean your bigger sales tax. You need to take these taxes and not tax these box stores so bad, so that people go, hey, I can get a better deal going to the box store. These are common sense solutions. There's nothing wrong with taking in tax dollars, but you better know where they're going, and they better be not only taxed from the right places, but also 100% of it going towards the need. And you're going to see a big program I'm launching, which are welfare programs, which obviously Minnesota, they're all being taken advantage of with fraud and everything. I have that set up 8 years ago, started in Detroit, and I with at least 7 or 8 other states that I was experimenting this on, these prototypes, and they work brilliantly. It provides private sector money with the public, with government money, and the private sector. You got a lot of people there that want to give, but they want to give to things that they're partial to. I don't want my tax dollars going to certain things, but the people in the private sector might go, hey, I want to help out here. It's an amazing program that it's been like a parked car. And when I'm going to be launching that, every single thing it's going to be brought up, and you're going to see all these debates coming up where I'm going to be on stage with all these other candidates. That's where I'm going to start rolling these out, going, hey, you guys, I have this. I'll give you another one, Michele. In the administration, the first one of Donald Trump, I'm good friends with Ben Carson. And Ben Carson, they came up with this program for these are the homeless in the streets, that have mental issues, and also people in addiction. They were doing the first prototype was in L.A. Even the governor of California and the mayor of LA agreed, and they put this together. This was in December of 2019, and it was beautiful. You separate to the federal land, you take them and you kind of like sort them, and you help these people to get them the needs they need for addiction, and also for mental issues, and for the homeless. It was like sorting this. You don't just take these people and relocate them. You get them the help they need. And it was a beautiful program, and it got sidelined because of the virus. I have the blueprints for that. I just got them 2 weeks ago. Wait till you see this roll out. Minnesota will be the absolute perfect prototype to show the world that this works for our new welfare program, because obviously we've got big problems where people take advantage of us in Minnesota, and also, they're needed, but we don't want people dependent on them. And this is wait till you see it unfold. It's going to be amazing.
Many people say that without the voter bloc that is the Somalian community in Minnesota, you can't win statewide elections. What is your plan there? How will you appeal to that voter bloc?
I have an appeal more than any of the other candidates. And here's the first thing. In 2020, there was over 200,000 candidates or people that voted in Minnesota for Donald Trump, but they didn't even bother and vote in the 2022 election. I have all their names. If I have to go door to door, I'm going to be contacting every one of them and saying, you guys, this is the most important midterm election in history. This is Minnesota's chance to finally be red. We've been blue since 1972 in our presidential races, but this is an opportunity there. And then when you talk about the inner city, the black vote, the Hispanic vote, I will get that vote. I've been there with them. I was an ex-addict, and I was down there and helping Minneapolis with your Teen Challenges, your Salvation Army, your Union Gospels. I put millions into all this out of my pocket before I even got involved in elections. I had never voted in my life. This is stuff that I was doing because I lived it. I've lived with no forks downtown, so I've been there, and I'll be able to get their votes. We did a thing, Michele, a year and a half ago. I went into Chicago, and this is when I was campaigning for the president. But I went into Chicago with Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who also works for me at Lindell TV, and we went into the inner city, and we talked to all the inner city, the Democrats that were voting now for Donald Trump, even though a lot of them didn't like him. And we said, well, why are you switching? And the reasons that came out of their mouth, the number one thing was the illegals were taking all their resources. But I have all that data. And you go downtown to Minneapolis and St. Cloud. I've been there. I've been everywhere in Minnesota, but Rochester. I'm going to be going right into these cities and saying, hey, you guys, you got to get a different input to get a different output. And I am that input. I know what needs to be done. And those people, they trust me. I can go any city and go right into the heart of the cities, and they trust me because I've been there. I know what they need. I know what we have the problem solution. And so I think more than any other candidate, I will get votes from both your ones that the Republicans that didn't vote, that sit there and go, oh, there's no hope. There's no hope. There is hope. And it's right now for such a time as this. I think the easier thing will even be, and then you got the, you see, in the commercials I'm doing a marketing plan that no one else has done before too, that I was going to do for the president, but we didn't even get enough time to do it in the summer of 24. So I'm going to be doing this marketing plan, which I can't tell you that part because other candidates would probably get out there and do it. And, I'm a pretty good marketer, and you're going to be, all of a sudden you're going to see, wow, there's the solutions. And in spite of the media, I believe the media was going to be, they've always given me an unfair, because they don't want me, a lot of them don't want me. But I was surprised when I announced Michele, the media was actually, they didn't say, Mike Lindell, conspiracy theory. They were actually pretty good. They even had me smiling. So, and remember, I built huge businesses in Minnesota. My Pillow I built from scratch. A billion-dollar company with thousands and thousands of employees in Minnesota over the years, and then now we've been the most attacked company in history of the planet for the last year, or the last 2 years, by Operation Arctic Frost, when it was attacked by our own administration under Biden. And My Pillow, we got through that. I was able to navigate them through the hardest time for any company in history, being attacked daily by the media and the government. And now they're there. My employee-owned company, they're there. They're secure. I can move on to governor, and they'll be just fine. They've been there. They're here to stay. And this is what it's all about. I've lived the American dream on steroids. This is what we're fighting for, the American dream. And everybody will see that. I don't care if you're a Democrat in the city that's going to also now vote for me, or if you're somebody that didn't bother and get out and vote, you're going to be getting out and voting.
Last question for you, Mike, before we let you go, is I saw some reporting over the weekend that shows that the data among Hispanic voters in particular is swinging back toward the Democrats because they don't like necessarily the way that immigration is being handled. I'm not, look, you see polls everywhere. They're a dime a dozen. I'm not sure if this is a legitimate one, but it was reported in the Wall Street Journal. Right. So if that is the case, and you mentioned voters in the past saying we want our resources for citizens here. If they don't like what they're seeing from ICE, what do you tell them?
Well, it's education. And I will tell you this is another thing I'm going to do, Michele. Infomercials are a half hour long. Okay. Infomercials are a half hour long. I'm an expert in infomercials 20 years ago. I'm going to be putting out infomercials as part of my campaign to educate, where they're not just hearing news, you're not just hearing polls. I want to educate the Hispanics, educate the people that you say that might be turning back because they're getting all their stuff from the news, the fake news, that whatever they want to steer and brainwash us in the past. When you do an infomercial, people don't, that's why it's called information. So we're going to be putting out, here's the fact, here's what happened here, here's why all these illegals that took your resources. I'm not talking about just welfare handouts. I'm talking about whether you needed help in addiction in the inner city and everything was full of illegals, or like in Minnesota here, pass out the licenses and any of the health care went for the illegal, where the resources weren't there for the people that need them, like the Hispanic community. And by the way, my books that I'm going to be giving out for to information. It's like my life story of all this, and we have 50,000 of them I put into Hispanic for such a time as this, so they're written in Spanish. But we're going to put out information so they can make their decisions based on facts rather than based on, oh, you know what, the Minnesota media is steering us, and this is really bad that ICE is here. Oh, really? What's so bad about it? You even had the governor, you had the mayor of one of the first places, Washington, D.C., the Democrat mayor came out there and said, what a great thing that we're having less murders and everything and cleaning up because ICE is here and helping us, and the federal government is helping us. You have to work with the federal government. They're there to help. And we've got to accept that. Obviously, in Minnesota here, we haven't been accepting help very good as we watched our city get burned to the ground in 2020, where it took 2 days before Walz even reacted because of our president putting pressure on him to, hey, you got to stop this. Everything getting burned to the ground, this nonsense, and the crazy mayor of Minneapolis. I mean, that guy's, so this is what I'm going to do is education, where we're going to get out the information. That's where I have another big advantage. I can get the information out there. I have a big mouth, okay? We're going to get the information out there. Then you can make your own decisions on what you're going to do, rather than, like you say, you're hearing something over here, and then the media will like to say, well, the Hispanic vote is going back over here to Democrat. That's rubbish. You don't know if it's a lie or whatever. I mean, instead, we're going to put out facts that can be, here's your fact check. Here's this, because right now we're in an age, with all this AI and all this stuff. You look on, and now you don't even know what to believe on your phone anymore. You're going, is this real? People are calling me all morning, is this fake news that Walz is dropping out of the race? Because you're going, until you hear it like widespread, you don't know what to believe anymore. So that's one of the biggest things I'm going to do is put out information, and then you can make your own decisions.
I appreciate your taking the time for us. I know you're traveling, you're busy campaigning. This field is large and apparently growing still for the Republican nomination. It's going to be a really interesting month of January. It started off with a bang today with Tim Walz stepping out of the race. Mike Lindell, I end every podcast by saying, be brave, do good. You've demonstrated both, and we appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you, Michelle. God bless you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.